Hey, what's up guys? Just wanted to start this clip off by showing you what I'm kind of working on currently. The apartments that we're in finally got done building the garages that we've been waiting for, so we moved all of our stuff from our second bedroom into the garage, and we've made this second bedroom kind of like our office area. So at the moment I have my patch wall, I have my plant and a horse painting up, but I don't know if I'm going to keep this set up. I think I might switch some things around or kind of change things up as we go, but this is what it's looking like currently. I'm pretty excited about it, so hopefully we'll be able to make more content this way and show you guys more knives. So today we're going to be talking about the Benchmade Vector, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and talk about the Benchmade 496 Vector. Let's go ahead and do a quick unboxing. This guy comes in a blue box. It is a everyday carry knife, so it will be coming to you in a blue box. And real quick guys, I'm messing around with the lighting in here like you saw in the clip before. I'm in the new office space, if you will, so if it's too bright or if I guess there's too many shadows, let me know. I'm still trying to learn all this lighting stuff. So anyways, you're gonna get your knife with a Benchmade pouch. You are gonna have a use and care manual, and then you have your styrofoam cutout right here for the knife. And on the box itself, it's gonna say the model, which is a 496 Vector. It's an everyday carry. Blade steel is CPM 20CV. It also has the Access Assist from Benchmade as well. And that's pretty much it. Life Sharp warranty, and it says blue class right down here. So pretty straightforward on the box. And then we take it out of the pouch. I have used this knife, so I cleaned it up a little bit. I'll try and put some pictures up, but it had a bunch of tape up on the blade from me using it. It also comes with this Access Assist card. And here's the knife. So, beautiful knife. Let's go ahead and get into it. Alright guys, so when it comes to pricing, you're gonna notice that there was a model before this one, which was the 495, and that came out in 2016. This guy came out in 2019, and if you go to Benchmade's website, you're gonna notice that they no longer have the 496 on their website. They only have the 495, and it's still up on the website, but it's sold out. Next we go to Knife Center. You're gonna see that they only have the 495 available as well, and it is still available, but it is only available for pre-order, and it's going for $292.50. Next we're gonna go to Blade HQ's website. If you look up the 496, it will pop up, but it is currently discontinued and sold out on their website, so you'll only be able to purchase the 495, and the 495 is currently going for $292.50, and I believe you can just add that to the cart. And next we're going to have the 496, which you can still look at on Blade HQ's website, but you can't purchase, and that knife was going for $315. And when I picked this knife up back in 2021, I believe I purchased it for around $310, $315-ish. Alright guys, so the next thing I wanted to show you guys was the specs. I'm going to go ahead and put these specs on the screen, and you can pause it so you can take a look at it as you'd like. So the first thing I wanted to talk about on this knife is the blade. This is a beautiful blade. This is Benchmade's first compound grind on a blade, and again guys, I'm trying to work with the light. It's pretty reflective, so I don't think you can really see the lines on here. I'll try and put pictures up, but anyways, this was Benchmade's first compound grind. It is a flat ground tip, and it is thicker than the recurved hollow ground right here, or hollow grind right here, and it has a swedge on top, which is really nice. Next thing I wanted to note was that the Benchmade logo is right here on the left side of the knife, and it has the model number right underneath it, the 496. On the other side, you're going to see that this blade steel is 20 CV and then has the website for the patent on this knife right here. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was the centering on this knife. I have used this knife quite a bit, and overall it seems to be pretty centered. It's ever so slightly to my left. It's barely off center, so nothing to complain about on that end for me. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the flipper. So this is a assisted opening system, so it's pretty nice, but this is a pretty small flipper if you ask me. I think this would have been really hard to flip had it not had the spring assisted action, so I think that's why this flipper is so small. Alright guys, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was the handles themselves. So we can go ahead and start with the hardware first. There are two different screw sizes on this knife. The pivot screw is going to be a T10 and all the other screws are going to be a T6. And I'll try and post pictures of this, guys, but there's a starburst design on the pivot screws on both sides, which is really nice, but it's just a T10, so that was just for the starburst design, was just for looks. It's still a T10. And then the axis lock itself right here is going to be a star design, which is pretty interesting. It's something that isn't normal. I thought it was something different, something special, if you will. If you look at other Benchmade knives, you're going to notice that they only have the standard circle grips, I guess, on the axis lock. So I find these to be a bit more aggressive, and I like that because it just makes it really easy for me to grip and close the knife. The other thing I wanted to note is the handles themselves come directly from the 495 model, so they're the same exact handles. This one just comes in green. And the other thing I did want to note was the aluminum bolsters right up here on the top. They look fine. They've held up pretty well. They do have some small dents from me dropping the knife, but overall has held up pretty good. I feel like titanium would have been a pretty cool option, but this knife is already $300. I feel like putting titanium on it would have made it more expensive, which I feel like a lot of people wouldn't have paid for if that were the case. But anyways, aluminum bolsters, star design on the axis lock, green G10 grips, which I like, I don't love. I feel like this is a really soft surface. I've never lost my grip when using this knife, but some texture would have been nice in my opinion. Next thing I wanted to note, and I didn't notice this until I actually made this video, but I'll try and post pictures or hopefully show it on the camera, but there is a very small line right there, white line, and that's just a small tiny layer of white G10 beneath the green, which I thought was pretty cool. Gives it a little bit of an accent to the handles themselves. The next thing is this guy has a lanyard loop right here at the very bottom, and it also has a reversible pocket clip. The other thing I wanted to mention is this guy is tip up only, so keep that in mind when purchasing this knife. I know some people prefer to carry tip down. Just know that that's not an option on this knife. The safety switch is on the spine of the blade, which is pretty straightforward. Up for lock, down for unlock. The other thing that I noticed on these handles was the cutout. There's a cutout right here on the handle itself. This guy also has some subtle finger grooves right down here, which I like. They don't get in the way of my fingers. So you can tell there's a finger groove right here, a finger groove right there, another one up here, and another one at the bottom corner. And when I hold this knife, it fits me well. If I ever have to get a lower purchase, my pinky fits right on this groove right here. Pretty big fan of the grip style themselves. Now, going back to the safety, the one thing that I did notice, which was kind of weird but kind of cool at the same time, was you can put the safety on the knife and still close the blade, which is pretty cool. All you got to do is push the axis lock down and close the knife. And I don't know if you guys will be able to notice it up here, but the flipper pushes the safety open and goes around the safety itself to close. You can see the safety popping out. It has like a pivot. So you close the knife, you can't open it, but you do have to unlock it to be able to open it. Now, the other thing that I noticed with this safety switch is that you have to press this whole part down with the teeth on it. You have to push it down, and when I mean down, I mean like down into the body and then down, so to unlock it. If I were to come up from the top of this knife and try and unlock it, it doesn't unlock. So this has to be pushed inward and then down. Kind of thought that was a little different. I messed around with the safety on the Osborne, and it's a completely different safety. Doesn't have the same features. Even when open, you can't lock it. It stays in place. So completely different switch than the Osborne, or completely different safety from the Osborne. So I thought that was different, but it's just something I just figured I'd note since I noticed it. So the next thing I wanted to do, guys, was do a quick comparison. I have a bunch of knives here that I'll be comparing this guy to, but first one is going to be the ZT-0562 in carbon fiber. This is my favorite knife in my collection at the moment. So ever so slightly bigger, I think, than the 0562. I'll put all the information to the length and weight on the screen for you guys. That way that's a bit more accurate in terms of information for you guys to look at. And the other knife I wanted to compare it to was my ZT Paramilitary 2. And this guy seems to be spinning for some reason. The other knives I wanted to compare it to real quick is obviously the Osborne that I had out here. Osborne is going to be significantly smaller. And here is the bailout. And I might as well make room for the bug out. So hopefully that gives you guys a pretty good comparison on the knife size overall. It is a full-size knife, so keep that in mind. Now we're gonna go ahead and get into the pros and cons. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and start with the cons. The first one being is this guy is a little bit heavy. It's heavier than the Paramilitary 2, but lighter than the 0562. And I feel like what Benchmade was trying to do was make a tactical knife, which I think they successfully did. But back then, they didn't really care about weight as much as they did design. So, you know, if you compare this to the bailout, for example, this is pretty lightweight compared to the Vector. And I dare say a tad bit smaller than the bailout, or than the Vector itself. So I think Benchmade is, you know, with their bug out line and the bailout line, they were able to make a tactical knife that's lightweight that would appeal more to a lot more people than this guy. So again, I think for when it came out in its time, it was a great knife, but it is a little heavy. It's not to say that I don't like carrying this knife, but when you have the bailout and the PM2 and the Osborne kind of like taking over that category of tactical knife, it's kind of hard to fit this guy in. So if that makes sense. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the spring assisted flipper. It's kind of confusing, at least to me. I'm not really sure why Benchmade did a spring assisted flipper when the whole purpose of a flipper is to be flipped. So I don't know what happened here. I'm not the biggest fan of it being spring assisted. The biggest reason why is it's kind of hard to close this thing one-handed. The spring on this guy is pretty heavy, so you can close it one-handed, but it just kind of gets awkward to close one-handed. Most of the time when I'm out and about and I have to close this thing, I just use both fingers, pull the axis lock down, and then I use my body or my leg to close the knife. It's just faster. It's not as annoying as having to kind of slowly maneuver my way to doing it one-handed. The other thing I wanted to mention was the blade action itself, or the spring action of the knife. It's pretty slow. On camera I think it'll look fast, but it's pretty slow in person. It's nothing to rave about. It's not a pro tech by any means, but I just think it's kind of sluggish. It's a sluggish action, so not the biggest fan of that. And the other thing I wanted to mention was the swedge on the blade itself up here. So I'll see if I can put this on camera. So down here at the bottom of the blade, you'll see that it's somewhat thick. And then it tapers down to a really thin blade down here. And then it tapers back up to a thick tip of the blade. So whenever I'm holding this knife, I tend to hold it and then get a higher purchase, and my thumb lands on the thinnest part of the blade itself. And it's the most uncomfortable thing when I have to use this to get a better purchase, or to, maybe stab into something that I need to open. That's just really uncomfortable. Now, granted, I could put my thumb down here on the lower part of the spine, but it's just not as comfortable. I would have also liked there to have been some jimping here, just to kind of offset that, having to put my thumb here. It would have kind of guided me to put my thumb here a little bit more. That's pretty much it. I think the last thing was the flipper. It is really small. It's a tiny flipper. It's a good thing this thing is assisted, because if it wasn't, it'd be a really hard flipper, which I think that's kind of why Benchmade did a spring assisted flipper to begin with. But compare that flipper to my ZT, you can tell there's quite a difference. And the same goes for this other ZT. So yeah, that kind of sums up my cons. When it comes to pros, there's really not that many. I mean, my biggest thing is in terms of pros. Overall, this is a great knife. I think it's slowly being outdated by newer knives that are currently coming out. But overall, it's a great knife. It's pretty sturdy. It's heavy duty. It's a tactical knife. The biggest thing that drew me to this was the blade profile itself. I mean, it's weird. I kind of get goosebumps just thinking about it, but I've never owned a compound grind blade. So to kind of be able to buy one of these was kind of like a real highlight for me in terms of this knife itself. So I don't know, maybe I'm just geeking out on the blade itself, but it's a tactical knife, guys. It's heavy duty. It's been through anything and everything I've thrown at it. I've opened a bunch of cardboard boxes, tape, rope, zip ties. I mean, this thing is a tank. The last pro that I wanted to talk about on this knife was the steel itself. I don't know what it is about Benchmade's 20CV steel, but it seems way more aggressive and better, in my opinion, than the zero tolerance CPM 20CV. When I rub my finger through the edge of this ZT, it just feels like it's glass. Like my fingers are literally just gliding over this edge. But when it comes to this Benchmade, it's like way more aggressive. I feel like the edge is still there. It seems like it's just retained its edge way better. And I don't know how, because every ZT that I have has like that glass-like feel on its edge, and maybe I just need to resharpen it. But I mean, for as much abuse and use that I've used on this guy, it's probably the same amount that I've used on my ZTs, and this edge just holds up. I mean, this thing is still sharp. I'll try and I guess kind of try and see if you guys can hear the edge, because you can hear it. It's audible. I hope my freaking mic catches that, but hopefully see if you can hear the difference. So, I don't know guys, maybe that's just me, but I feel like the edge retention on this guy has been phenomenal. So anyways guys, that pretty much sums up this knife. I freaking love this thing. It's gonna stay in my collection forever. I don't plan on selling it, but comment down below. Let me know if you like this model better or the older model, the 495, and let me know what your experiences are with it. And let me know what you guys think of the, I guess, current new setup of all of this. Let me know if you guys like it or not. Thank you very much again for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. All of that really helps me out, and I'm pretty excited to hopefully try and grow the channel as much as I can. So thank you very much guys. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thank you very much, and take care.